Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and you're watching The Broken Meeple. This is a YouTube channel about board games where I give reviews, top 10s and my honest opinions, regardless of the consequences. We'll get on with the show in just a minute, but first a quick word from my sponsor. As a fellow gamer, you'll understand this is unacceptable. The solution? Head down to my new sponsor, Kiender.co.uk. Kiender stocks many of the hot new releases as well as some old hidden gems. Free delivery on orders over £30, further discounts on bulk purchases, and even 5% of your spending refunded back to you as points to be used for further discounts down the line. If you use the referral link in the description below and sign up for a new account, you'll get 5% discount on your first order over £60. So let's make gaps in your collection a thing of the past. Get down to Kiender and start saving today. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the video.
Get on with it.
So on today's fairly quick episode, I would imagine, is Splendor Duel. This one I have definitely been ambivalent on in terms of anticipations. On the one hand, I'm thinking, well, Splendor's already a cool game. Do we need a dual version of this one? But then on the other hand, it's done by Bruno, and pretty much any two-player game he touches is usually gold dust. I've already talked positive about Sobek recently, and have I said enough praises about Wonders Duel, which, yes, granted, Wonders was not originally his game, but then he came along, did a two-player with Antoine Boza, and created a golden two-player game. So, with that said, taking a game I already like, and yes, I still like Splendor, I still have it on my shelf, I still take it home from my parents because they enjoy to play it, yes, get over it, but I thought, okay, can you really improve the formula with a two-player version? I mean, Splendor plays fine at two players. It's not like it needed fixing, whereas Seven Wonders at two-player is pretty much garbage. So it was kind of like, where do I go with this? But I went in with a little bit of a, open-mindedness and just thought, okay, let's give it a shot.
6 hours later.
So if you played Splendor, you've pretty much played 95% of this game, frankly. You're still doing the classic idea of buying these cards, trying to get a certain amount of victory points to win the game, and doing so with these poker chips. So in Splendor Duel, you have a board with all the chips laid out on there as such, and you have one of three actions you can do. You can reserve one of the cards that you've got to buy and take a gold from the board. You can buy one of those cards by paying the cost at the bottom, where they basically have the costs in gems that you need of the different colors, and you simply pay the gems and take the card. Or you take gems from this board, and this works a little bit differently from before. In the previous Splendor, you just took three different ones or two of a kind. Here, it's all about where they are on this grid. So they'll be laid out at random at the start of the game, and you can pick three as long as they're adjacent and not gold. So couldn't pick this one with this action, but I could go 1, 2, 3. I'll take these three. I could take 1, 2, 3. I'll take these three. Maybe these three. 1, 2, 3. As long as they're adjacent and not gold, you can take 3 gems, and that's all well and good. The idea with this is, like I say, much like Splendor, you get these gems and you buy these cards. But where this game differs is with the victory point conditions and the noble cards. Here, you have 4 nobles and that's it. But basically the way you acquire them is by collecting crowns which are presented on the cards themselves. 0, 1 or 2. Buy the cards, they've got crowns, get enough of them, you get these nobles which are points and another ability. But the real twist here is how you end the game. One of 3 victory conditions is what you want. You either want 20 victory points, whatever you're on, you want 10 crowns on your cards, which you've bought, or 10 victory points if you can get them all on the same colour. Achieve one of these 3, you win the game outright, and that really is it. There is not a lot to talk about in terms of the rules. That is all you do. If you have played Splendor, you know most of this game already, or it will be instantly familiar. You can teach this game from the rulebook in about 5 minutes, and pretty much once you've played it once, every rule you need to know is on the back. And the convenient reference aid. This is so simple, it's unreal. I mean, not as simple as original Splendor. I mean, that basically has about, 3 rules in the game, and that's about it. But it's basically a very small step up to this level. It's that straightforward. It's intuitive on the cards, it's easy to tell what the iconography is and what the colours are, it's all well and good. Colour blindness might be a little bit of a problem though, because even though the gems are technically different shapes, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a blue one and a green one and a gold one just by glancing at the picture. So sadly, colourblind people might struggle with this one, I'm afraid.
Oh, come on!
Component-wise, pretty solid for a small 2-player game. I mean, you've got a nice proper size box for this game. In fact, I dare say this one could actually be even made slightly smaller. But you've got these cool little sort of plastic scrolls for the privilege. You've still got the great artwork on the cards. and you've got, you know, little poker chips. Yes, they're not as big and grandiose as the big version, but they're still pretty decent. I mean, it is, you know, still solid plastic and an easy to read board. The only blemish here, though, is that if you sleeve this game, they will not fit in the box.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Sorry, sleevers, like me, the insert is great if you just use it as it's printed. But as soon as you sleeve these, which I did, they stack too high, the board won't stay level, and you can't close the box properly. So you chuck the insert, and you put the cards in bags, and you just put them in like that. That's how I store it now. Chuck the insert if you want to sleeve it, keep the insert if you don't. Either way, you'll be fine. I roll my eyes on the fact that they didn't think maybe to cater for sleeve cards. I don't know. I mean, God forbid that's a thing these days, but I'll say minor blemish. So it's not like 2-player Splendor sucked or anything. I mean, Splendor was great 2, 3 or 4 players. It scaled really well, and 2-player Splendor you can get done in no time at all, and it was a good, simple game. So this one has a bigger milestone to climb, because 7 Wonders with 2-player was pretty much garbage. There's like 1 out of every 10,000 people out there who actually like playing 7 Wonders with 2 players. Most people don't. So 7 Wonders Duel could have been mediocre for all it mattered, and it would have still been better than the 2-player version. Here though, the 2-player Splendor is already good, if great even. So it had a bigger milestone to climb. But there are 3 key ways where this game does better than the original Splendor. Firstly, the privilege token. Anytime you want to replenish the game board, or take too many identical tokens or too many pearls, you gotta give your opponents these, and there's 3 of them that they could end up with. Spend 1 at the start of your turn, and you can take any non-gold token from the board. That doesn't sound like much, but you give it to them too often, that could be pretty powerful. You're effectively saving them actions by not having to take gems, especially if they only needed 1 in particular on the board. And because it can be any gem, they could screw you out of a decent free line of gems by taking the one in the middle that says, well, now you've only get 2 gems on your turn. It's not something you want to be taking lightly. Secondly, I like the fact that the cards now have some abilities on them. Yeah, they give you rewards like more gems and crowns, but occasionally they'll have a special ability on them. And the special ability basically allows you to do things like take another turn, take a token of the matching colour of this card from the board, take a privilege, take a gold from the opponent. Yeah, there's actually a bit of meanness in this. Or copy the colour of a previous card. They're not like groundbreaking abilities, but again, you buy a card thinking, it'd be nice if I got that ability, that'd be pretty sweet if I could use it in that, and again, that's all pretty solid. My favourite aspect though, the endgame conditions. I love games where there are multiple ways to win and each one feels balanced. Or even if maybe a couple might be a bit more situational than the other, but they still feel balanced. One doesn't feel overpowered, it just might be more commonly used. 7 Wonders Duel had the same thing, auto win by science or military, or just go for victory points. You usually went to victory points, didn't you? But you still had to think about the science and the military. Here, you will probably most commonly win by getting 20 victory points. Just flat out 20 across the whole board from every source possible. But you can't outrank these other 2 though, and I have won the game by getting 10 of a colour and 10 crowns before, usually when the other player doesn't expect it, and it's great that I've got this option. Especially if you have a bit of a slow start and you can see your opponent doing pretty well for the 20 point slot, and you're like, well, if I continuously focus on blue, I've already got, a few points in it. I can get that one over there. You know what? I'm going to aim for that. And it's not so much a catch-up mechanism, but it gives you that little bit of an incentive to keep fighting. Not that the game takes you very long anyway. I mean, the game says 30 minutes on the box. That is doable when you know what you're doing. You're probably going to say 45 minutes for your first game while you're kind of learning it and just teaching it for the first time. But, 30 minutes is doable. 30 to 40 minutes should be how long it takes you to do this game. It's not a long setup at all. I mean, you basically lay out the cards much like you do in normal Splendor with tier 3, tier 2 and tier 1. Populate this board with a bunch of tokens and off you go. The game does slow down a little bit though when you've got to replenish the thing, because they're all in this bag. You've taken the tokens, you pop them in the bag, and then you've got to go, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right, and there, and then there, and then there, and then there, and then there, and there. There, whoop, missed the one, and there, lost one, there we go, and there, and replenished.
You mean you have to use your hands? That's like a baby's toy.
That pauses the game a little bit, and you got to do that fairly frequently in the game, but that little blemish aside, it's a quick setup and a quick play with simple rules and yet fulfilling choices. It retained what was good about Splendor. Simplistic engine building and threw a little bit of a twist on it. But with this, you get a few more tactical choices in ordinary Splendor. Just because I want 3 different gems doesn't mean I can have the 3 different gems that I want normally. In previous Splendor, you just go, I'll take red, blue, and green. They're both there, why not? So, but here, I'm looking at red, blue, and green, I'm going, I can't actually, oh wait, yep, there's red, blue, and green, there you go. But now let's say the opponent now wants to take white, red, and blue. White, red, and blue. Let's see, white, red, and blue. Okay, cool. Suddenly you notice the choices are dwindling quite rapidly on this board here. Okay, now I want green, red, blue. I can't. There is no green, red, blue here. That's green, blue, white. Do I need a white? I could do with a red. Well, there's a red and a blue, but then I only get 2 gems. Well, I could take 2 pearls, but then I give my opponent the privilege. I don't know about that. That's already introducing more tactical choices from just choosing the gems compared to the original game. The abilities on some of the cards, the nobles included, but the level 2 cards which I've got behind the box there, they're just a nice little twist. You buy a card not necessarily even thinking if it's got points or if it's got the colour you want. You just like think, well, if I take that, I can copy the colour of this other card, or I can get another turn. A bonus turn's always good. Failing that, you know what? You're very protective of that blue gem there, and I could really use my 6th blue gem here. So you know what? Buy that cheap one. Yoink! Give me your blue gem. Just, you know, a tiny bit of meanness. It doesn't happen very often, but it's there and you have to bear with it when it happens. It's all a good thing. And then that person decides, you know, ooh, when am I going to replenish the board? Because that's a hard choice. You know, I'm thinking, I don't want to replenish it because if I do, I give the opponent a scroll. And even though it's not the be-all or end-all, if you give them the scroll once or twice in the game, everybody gets a little bit afraid to replenish because they're like, I don't want to give you the scroll. Can I do anything else? I'll take 2 gems instead. Fine. You replenish it. No, I ain't replenishing it. No, I'm going to reserve that card over there. I'm going to take this 1 last gold on the board. You replenish it. And it's just great that you can get into those sort of tug-of-war deals where one person will eventually break and do the replenish. And then you've got those free victory conditions which just elevate the original game so much. They had the Cities expansion which brought out a similar element to that where they changed the end game conditions a little bit, but that's an expansion and it wasn't compatible with other expansions. This is just straight out of the box. All 3 paths are pretty balanced, all 3 paths work. I have won with all 3 of these paths. It's just elevating the original Splendor to the point where, yes, I like the original Splendor, I think it's great, it's still in my collection, but now that is my go-to for 3 to 4 players, whereas this is now my go-to for 2 players. It's nowhere near as like amazing as 7 Wonders Duel, but then that was like my top 10 of all time level. But this is still brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So Splendor Duel is kind of what you'd expect it to be. It's mostly Splendor, but with a few tweaks that add to the tactical nature of the game and elevate it to a point where as a 2-player game, I highly recommend this one. And I mean highly. I have enjoyed all my plays of this. It's smooth, elegant, simple to learn, simple to teach, much more simple and elegant and simple to teach than 7 Wonders Duel, and that's not exactly the most hardest game in the world. This one is just like gateway level simplicity for rules, but yet some cool tactical elements and nice choices, as well as being pretty well produced apart from the minor blemish that you've got to decide between sleeving and non-sleeving. I mean, that's not a massive deal. Chuck the insert and you can sleeve it. That's what I've done. Honestly, this is just a fantastic game. Now, do I enjoy it as much as 7 Wonders Duel? No. And as much as there's not really any flaws, or at least any major flaws with the game, there's also not necessarily a ton new here. This isn't reinventing the wheel. It's not like this is an innovative experience. It's just basically going, oh well, did you like Splendor? Well, here's a few variants to change it around. And in some ways, that's kind of what this game feels like. Splendor with variants. But they're really good variants. Splendor for me is getting not quite a 10 out of 10, but it's getting a 9 out of 10, easily strong 9 out of 10 seal of distinction. This is a fantastic 2-player game. It is definitely better than playing normal 2-player Splendor. Bruno does it again. I mean, credit to Marc-Andre as well, because he's a designer on this as a collaborator, but seriously, Bruno just creates gold dust whenever he gets involved in a 2-player game. What can I say? He is one of my favorite designers, and it's stuff like this that does it for me. So if you are a fan of Splendor, by all means, think about whether you're playing it 2-player or not ever, and grab this if you can. If you didn't like the original Splendor, stay away from this, because honestly, as much as this has some cool little extra choices in that, it's still predominantly Splendor. So if you didn't like Splendor, you're not suddenly going to love this one. It's just not going to happen. So consider your player base, 2-player or multiplayer. Consider whether you like these 2-player games or not, and make your decision on that. But honestly, 9 out of 10, guys. This is solid. One of the best games I've played this year, and it happens to be a 2-player game based on a game from 2013, I think it was. That's saying something about 2022, but hey, that's the way it is. Maybe there's some more games from Essen that can elevate above this one. So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. I'll see you on the next video that I do. Remember, as always, you can thumb up the video. Please share it on social media if you can. Get the word out. Thumb it up on Board Game Geek as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the Patreon if you can to help me out with review copies. But mainly, subscribe to the channel and get your comments down below. Let me know what you think of Splendor. Do you like this version? Do you prefer the old version? Are you interested in the 2-player version? Do you think 2-player Splendor was fine? Do you think 2-player Splendor was rubbish? You know, do you love Bruno and his 2-player games? Just get your comments down below and let me know your thoughts. Until next time, you can check out more content on the channel, including my review of Woodcraft with the demonic Pinocchio puppets, but also you can check out some of my videos I had of Essen where I was doing vlogs on site. So take care, and remember, as always, regardless of who's got the privilege, it's still only a game. Bye for now.